She was only a passenger in 13F, another anonymous traveler making her way through a crowded sky, her headphones in and her eyes closed against the steady drone of the engines. To anyone watching, she was just a woman in her 30s, lean, tired, dressed in jeans and a light jacket, the kind of figure you could pass in an airport without remembering her face. The flight had been uneventful so far, the kind of quiet cruise where people began to relax, their guard lowering with each minute. Somewhere over the Atlantic, she shifted in her seat, stretching slightly, when the captain's voice broke over the intercom with a sharpness that instantly cut through the calm. His words were clear, deliberate, and urgent. If there are any combat pilots on board, please make yourselves known to the crew immediately. At first, there was silence, followed by uneasy whispers rippling through the cabin. A man in business attire glanced at his wife, a teenager removed her earbuds, and a baby began crying as though sensing the collective fear that spread like electricity through the rows. People craned their necks, looking around to see if anyone would respond. In 13F, she kept her eyes closed, her body rigid, her breath quickening as she tried to still herself. It had been years since she had last answered a call like that, years since she had worn a helmet and felt the raw power of a fighter jet beneath her. She had buried that part of her life under layers of silence, but the captain's voice pulled it back like a wound reopening. Minutes later, the intercom crackled again. This is not a drill. If there are any trained military or combat pilots aboard, please press your call button now. The tension in the air was unbearable. Something was wrong. Very wrong. She opened her eyes, exhaled, and pressed the button. A flight attendant hurried over, her face pale but relieved at the sight of the lit signal. "Are you?" she whispered. The woman in 13F nodded slowly, her voice low but steady. "Air Force. Call sign Vega. I flew F-22s. The attendant's expression changed instantly from fear to urgent hope. "Come with me," she said. As she stood, the passengers around her stared, whispers rising like a tide. "She's a pilot, she's military, maybe she can help." She walked quickly to the front, her steps purposeful, her heart pounding. Inside the cockpit, the captain's face was tight with strain. He gestured toward the radar screen, and her eyes followed. Two unidentified blips were trailing them, moving fast, closing distance. "They're not responding to our hails," the captain said. "Command has scrambled escorts, but we need to know what we're dealing with." For a moment, she felt the old instincts flare inside her, that coiled readiness she thought she had abandoned. She picked up the headset, her voice firm. "This is Vega, formerly of the 94th Fighter Squadron. Who is on this frequency?" The static hissed, then a voice came back, clipped and professional. "Vega, this is Falcon Lead. 2 F-22s on station, your signal is loud and clear." "Thought you were long gone." She almost smiled despite the tension. "So did I," she replied. The passengers behind the locked door had no idea what was unfolding above them, only that the flight attendants moved with tight urgency, whispering into phones, securing galleys, preparing for the worst. She leaned over the radar, her eyes calculating speed, distance, angle. The escorts reported visual contact. 2 bogies, no markings, no transponder. Shadowing the commercial, her stomach tightened. Whoever they were too close, and too deliberate. She took the radio again. "Falcon Lead, this is Vega. Keep tight formation. I'll relay through cockpit comms." The captain glanced at her, astonished. "You're still active." She shook her head. "No, just a passenger. Until now." She guided them through intercept protocols, every syllable crisp, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had lived through dogfights, who had stared death in the face at Mach speeds. In the cabin, fear thickened. Rumors spread row to row. Some whispered about hijackers, others about missiles. Children clutched parents' arms, strangers held hands. They didn't know the woman from 13F was no longer a passenger but the lifeline connecting them to the silent guardians streaking through the sky outside their windows. The tension mounted as the unknown aircraft edged closer. The F-22s moved to intercept, their sleek forms cutting through clouds. Falcon Lead's voice came through, steady but wary. "They're not responding, Vega. Orders." For a moment, the weight of command pressed down on her, heavier than anything she had carried in years. She was no longer an officer, no longer bound by chain of command, but in this fragile moment, they were looking to her, trusting her instincts. "Hold fire," she ordered. "Shadow and block. We buy time until we know what they want." The bogies shifted, testing the escorts, then peeled off suddenly, vanishing into cloud cover. Heartbeats pounded in ears across the cockpit and far beyond in the cabin where passengers clung to prayers. Falcon Lead's voice returned. "They're gone. No lock. No ID. Vega, what the hell was that?" She closed her eyes briefly, the adrenaline washing through her like fire. "A reminder," she said quietly, "that sometimes, the sky doesn't forget who you are." When she returned to 13F, passengers watched her with wide eyes. She gave nothing away, only sat back down, folded her hands, and stared out the window at the endless stretch of blue. To them, she was again just a passenger, but somewhere above, two F-22s still flew guard, their pilots carrying the echo of her call sign, the sound of Vega returning to the fight, if only for a moment. The engines hummed steady, the seatbelt light blinked off, and the captain's voice returned, calm again, thanking everyone for their patience. People exhaled, relief flooding the cabin, but she remained still, eyes fixed on the horizon, knowing that the call she thought she had left behind had found her again, high above the earth, where destiny and danger always meet.